Silverio Villegas Gonzalez was shot and killed by ICE in Franklin Park, Chicago on the 12th of September 2025. This person was minding their own business driving to work one Friday morning. He had 4 traffic tickets from about a decade ago. Nothing serious, just the kinds of things that happen when you drive for years in a busy city. This man was a hard-working father of 3 who was already living in fear of immigration raids in Chicago. His family and community who knew him personally have been trying to emphasize as much as possible how afraid this man was, how he was in total panic and shock during this attempted arrest. At no point was he physically threatening or violent or abusive to the federal agents that shot him. He didn't need to be. He was from Mexico. Apparently that is enough to lose your life now in the United States, the country that was founded on immigrants. This is the first time that an ICE agent has shot somebody dead in cold blood, in broad daylight, on camera. If that doesn't trigger you, you have no spine. Nobody deserves this. No matter what the colour of their skin or their personal politics, nobody deserves this. To be gunned down in broad daylight. That's already disgusting enough and should not have happened. No American can feel safe in their car driving to work if you allow this to happen to one person. A federal task force stopped this man's vehicle in a quiet Chicago suburb, and within minutes there is gunfire and he is dead. But that's only where the bullshit begins. I want to talk about what happened next. Because within hours, the American media has ramped up to try and shape the narrative here. And we cannot keep letting them do that. Stop letting these cowboys control the narrative. Report the news yourself. These government agencies have massive communications teams full of propagandists, and they have ready-made press kits, templates full of phrases ready to go. By the evening of the 12th of September, news outlets across the United States and across the political spectrum are calling him a criminal, saying he has a history of reckless driving and that he drove his car at officers. But there's a problem. Somebody filmed it and the video shows something completely different. This is CCTV footage from the Happy Nail Salon, and it shows exactly what happened. The federal response has been to deny that body cameras or dash cameras even exist. By refusing to share, or delaying it, or denying its existence, they hope that nobody outside of their agencies can see the full chain of events. Even slowing it down allows enough time for rumor to turn into hard fact. By the time those materials get produced, the American public has moved on and they accept that first version of the truth without critical thought. This is how government propaganda works, and this is how you learn to see through it. Every magic trick has 3 parts. 1, the setup. Create a story that sounds reasonable. ICE is never going to write, "We killed somebody," in a press statement. So they find out what they can use. For example, when the Blackstone CEO was shot, they quickly found out that the perpetrator had a history of football and started saying he was attacking the NFL. Here, they found his parking tickets. Then that means, okay, cool, great, we can say he had a criminal history. Mexican criminal history. That creates shortcuts for the layman who doesn't want to think too deeply. It's just watching CBS News and thinks, oh yeah, that makes sense. Mexican criminal record, ICE shot. That's what the media is relying on. Your ignorance. Step 2, they turn ICE into heroes. In this incident, it's quite the pantomime. They said an officer was dragged 100 feet from his vehicle. Where? When? Where's your footage? Prove it. Because the Happy Nails security footage didn't capture that. And no other proof has been surfaced. They say that the ICE agents had severe injuries. They told CBS that one of these officers had serious back injuries, but he's captured on camera given first aid minutes later. Do those people look seriously injured to you? Or does the person they shot, who's dead on the ground, look seriously injured? They told you that this was a life-threatening situation for them. For them. These two, on top of this homicide victim. This unarmed man on his way to work presented a life-threatening situation to these heavily armed bulletproof vest wearing federal agents. Cut your bullshit. No body cam. They want the American public to think that this death was inevitable, that these agents had no choice, and that they work in the name of public safety. They are also refusing to name the 2 ICE agents who used unnecessary force on a civilian at a traffic stop. This both protects these 2 and creates a deliberate accountability vacuum that allows propaganda to circulate unchecked. The ICE propaganda strategy involves blaming social media for spreading misinformation and then using official ICE channels to spread misinformation. ICE commits crimes and then lies about the circumstance and allows an information ecosystem where misinformation can flourish by presenting contradictory evidence and lying in press releases. ICE then blames social media misinformation for the fact that there's an increased number of assaults to ICE officers. Well, shit, you think? Why would anybody be attacking an ICE officer? Maybe instead of blaming your critics, you could address the underlying violence that causes the criticism. So the press release goes out and then news outlets copy it word for word without any checking. That's not journalism. That's complicity. You can tell that it's manufacturing consent because the same talking points will show up across these media outlets within minutes. They're trained and instructed not to ask questions. They just print the news. The news. The words they're told to use. That is not free. Free speech, free press. That language spreads like a virus. It's catchy and memorable and you don't even think about it. You just know that words like criminal and dangerous and resisted arrest are serious, but they're not facts. They're sales pitches. The truth is, most of these journalists didn't even watch the footage. They never checked the court records. They did not talk to the family. They did not talk to the witnesses. They just copy what the government tells them to. It was days later that someone found the footage from the nail shop that proves the car was driving away from the officers, not towards them. The government is relying on your short attention span, hoping that the footage came out too late. 24-hour news cycle has moved on. People remember the first version of the story, and the correction gets buried on page 12. This is why the media trick works so well, because Americans let sensationalized lies spread in their communities faster than the actual truth. If you shared anything from any of these media bullshitters, you need to do media literacy training now. You're being a foot soldier for your enemy. When you train journalists to think like agents, they're going to act like agents. And when you train agents to think like murderers, you normalize murder in cold blood.